All right, good evening, everyone. It's my pleasure to welcome you all back to another year of great VKC talks. I take it you all had a really wonderful, productive, and relaxing summer. We are kicking off the year with a talk from Michelle Tappert. She's here to talk about using reflectance spectroscopy to detect hydration halos around Kimberlite. Michelle is a co-founder and CEO of Hyperspectral Intelligence, a company that provides hyperspectral data collection and interpretation services for the geology industry. She's also a 3-time graduate of the University of Alberta and co-author of the book Diamonds in Nature, a guide to rough diamonds. I believe she also has this book here today. So without further delay, please join me in welcoming Michelle.
So I don't know if you guys have ever seen this book, but you want to take a look at it. Front. Ralph and I wrote this book 7 years ago when we were in grad school. Anyways, okay, so that's right. Let's find it. All right, so what I'm going to do today is I'm going to talk about how we're using reflectance spectroscopy collected from drill core mainly to look for new techniques perhaps that can be used to look for the hydration event that is created by the formation of Kimberlite. And so this is kind of a new project that we went into. This hasn't really been done before, so this is a project that started from the very beginning. It's in development, we're gathering data, and I just wanted to give this talk to show you what we have so far. We have a lot of information coming from different Kimberlites that we've looked at already. A lot of people contributed to this, and I just wanted to kind of give this information out to the crowd, let everybody know that it exists, and that this kind of work is being done. It's in the quest, really, to help Kimberlite exploration, and in some way, indirectly, also other exploration for other ore deposits that have a hydration or alteration. So our company, Hyperspectral Intelligence, we're geologists. We work mainly in the geology field, but the algorithms and the techniques that we use for this work, for our geology work, are also applicable in other fields. So we do medical imaging, pharmacology we're getting more into, doing plastic sorting, all with the same technology that you use for geology. The same TerraSpec, the same kind of instruments, the same imaging cameras. You can use all of that technology, not just for geology, but for other sectors. And I just want to point out that we're geologists. We did this. We started all of this work on geology. So how hyperspectral imaging works is that it's a different kind of sensor than perhaps what you're used to. There are several different kinds of sensors. What we have and what we're familiar with, on the top row here, you've got a 1-band sensor. This is a grayscale image that will give you, there's 1 band in that sensor. That sensor is 1 band, and that'll give you a grayscale image. What we're used to most commonly, which is in your digital camera and your smartphone, is a 3-band sensor. This will give you a red, blue, and green image. This is what you see with your eyes. This is what you'll see in your pictures for most people. Then you can have another kind of 1-band sensor, near infrared, night vision. But when you start getting more than 3 bands, this is where you get into the multispectral range. And this is commonly on satellites. You'll have 5, 6, 10 bands. And those bands may cover the visible, so you'll probably get your 3 RGB bands. But you'll get bands that go into the near infrared. They'll be picking up information maybe at 1 microns, 2 microns, and so on. Now there are lots of hyperspectral sensors coming out, and they collect data with 20 to 2,000 bands. So these 2,000 bands may also cover the visible, but they will go also extend to near infrared, shortwave infrared, and long wave infrared. And that information can tell you about the chemical composition of the target that you're looking at. So instead of taking a picture and seeing color, where each pixel has a color, you're taking a picture and each pixel has a spectrum. And each spectrum can be interpreted to tell you what's in the mineral chemistry, for example, for rocks. The problem with these kinds of sensors, especially these ones right here, they're quite expensive. So this would be a kind of sensor that's on the CoreScan system or TerraCore and things like that. But what we are more familiar with as geologists is perhaps the halo and the teraspec. So instead of collecting a whole image, that's make, it's a picture, you collect one point. That's why we call them point spectrometers, and that's what they're called. So point spectrometers collect 1 point, and so you can collect a point every meter, every 10 centimeters, however you want. But they're a bit simpler and they're a bit cheaper than these imaging systems. So point spectrometers cost less than imaging cameras, and the results are often the same. There's a few examples where you can say, okay, well, we definitely need to image a drill core or chips or something else, and we get this high quality data. But the reality is, in most cases, you can, after you've done a little bit of work with this, perhaps, you don't have to, but then you can downgrade your instrument requirements down to something more affordable, something more portable, that you can find. A lot of people have some of these instruments sitting in Pelican cases under their desks that aren't being used. You can let your friends use it and so on. They're not entirely cheap, and I'm going to address that in the next slide, the slide after, but they're definitely cheaper than this, and ultimately the results are very similar. We work with both these kinds of data sets, and these kinds of data sets with equal ability. So the problem with Kimberlites, as you all know, they're relatively small, and the presence of overburden can make it challenging to intersect a Kimberlite target during drilling. And that's a fact. So the problem is that, let's say you're doing exploration drilling and you did not intersect Kimberlite, which happens. Was the Kimberlite target missed? Was it missed by 20 meters, 100 meters, or was the target not a Kimberlite? And this is the question that everybody deals with when they're drilling and you don't hit your target. So what the question was posed to us was, do Kimberlites produce an alteration halo or an alteration footprint into the country rock around the Kimberlite? There's something that's automatically changing the times. Let me just see if there's any changes. I'm sorry. I've had this happen before. Yeah, see this thing? It's sometimes. Okay. So that'll stop the automatic advancing. So here we are. Here, the Kimberlites produce an alteration footprint. That's a question. Let's take a look at some of the rocks and see if there's an alteration footprint around Kimberlites. So here's Tuzo pipe. Ralph went to. Why is it doing this? It's got a mind of its own. There's a. So here we have, so Ralph went to Sudbury for De Beers warehouse in Sudbury and measured some drill core from the Tuzo pipe. And as you can just see the contacts between the granite and the Kimberlite. There's not much happening in the granite that indicate there's actually Kimberlite showing up in the next box here. So if there's actually Kimberlite inside the granite that shows you that there's Kimberlite below, if you were to look at the granite just completely separated, isolated, would you be able to say that there's a Kimberlite in the next box? And the answer is probably not. You don't see any changes of mineralogy of the granite. You don't see actual new minerals forming. So is there an alteration halo? That's a good question. Probably not there. In Victor pipe, you can see that here's the limestone, here's the Kimberlite, here's the contact. Do you see any mineralogical change in the limestone that indicates that the Kimberlite is below? And the answer is not really. That doesn't mean that there aren't Kimberlites that have an effect of the crustal rocks around it, so that they're not brecciated, that there's not indicators that the Kimberlite is there. But once you get into solid crustal rock, can you look at that solid crustal rock and say that there's a Kimberlite nearby? And there aren't any actual indicator minerals that will tell you that, or alteration minerals. So what we're looking for in this project was, is there an invisible Kimberlite signature? So looking for something a bit more subtle than visible mineralogical change, something that would indicate that these rocks were hydrated, but that they weren't necessarily altered to another mineral. So our approach is that we're using portable and non-destructive instruments to collect hydration and alteration information from crustal rocks around Kimberlites to see if there's any trends. This is the instrument halo, so these are commonly available. What you guys probably don't know is here's a smartphone sleeve that has a sensor that's very similar to the halo, but it costs a fraction of the price of the halo, and it collects data that's almost as good as the halo. So you can, and I think the whole thing costs about $2,000. So in November, you'll be able to buy this instead of using a halo, and you'll be able to collect this information from a drill core or from chips, and get this information in a much more affordable way than the halo, perhaps. Okay. So this new technology is coming out. There's a lot of companies making these miniaturization for these sensors, not just for geology, but for pharmaceuticals. This is actually built for a pharmaceutical project, and that's why they're building it. They're building for medical things, but they're equally usable for geology as well. And so we can use the data from here, use the data from there, whatever is available at the time. So when we look for invisible kimberlite signatures, we're looking for hydration. We're looking for a granite spectrum that has more water in it than a granite spectrum that has less water. So we're looking to see if there's a different amount of water, different type of water in the granite spectrum. We're not looking to find new minerals in the granite, we're just looking to see if that granite is hydrated. And it's the same with the dolostone and limestone. We're working more with the spectral features at 1400, these guys here, and these guys here. And by looking at the shape, the position, the intensity of those spectral features, we can make an assessment about the degree of hydration of a rock. So if that rock is dehydrated or if it has lots of water in it. What? Yeah, this thing is advancing automatically, so it's kind of throwing me off here. You can save your questions for me, okay? So the background for this is that the spectra contain information about chemical composition of rocks and minerals. This is it's a chemical technique. The spectra that we're analyzing here, we're analyzing to identify adsorbed water and its abundance. For example, what we're looking for specifically is adsorbed water that's held onto the mineral surfaces by weak van der Waals or hydrogen bonding. And this is the kind of water that will be released by decrease in pressure or by heating to temperatures of 110 degrees Celsius. So this is really subtle water that is sitting in the grain, absorbed onto the grain surfaces. This is a non-visible chemical change, and it's also referred to as cryptic alteration or metasomatism in ore deposits when you start studying looking for alteration in those around ore deposits. So the methods that we use are, we like to use the available spectrometers that are around. We collect one spectrum every 1 meter from clean, dry drill core. Spectra are emailed to our company. In the future, we're going to have a portal available. You can have this uploaded and then have it analyzed in real time. And then we analyze the spectral features produced by absorbed water in an automated way. It's all automated. And then we interpret and compare the results to the, of the area perhaps, and looking for background information. So the goal of this is to develop a method that can be used in the field during a drilling program. This has always been our goal. So something's really practical and something that's applied. So let's talk about the results. So because we're measuring water in a spectrum, this can be very complicated to, you can't just, show each spectrum for each data point. So what we did is we devised a way to build a hydration value. So this hydration value is kind of like thumbs up, thumbs down kind of thing, except it's between 0 and 1. So 0 and 1, 0 is would be your least hydrated rocks, and we're calling this the background. So this will be the pink field in the next pictures, with 1 being very hydrated. And the way I want to explain this is that if you have a rock that has not experienced hydration, it should fit nicely in this background field. And you're not looking at one point, you're looking at all of the points of an area. Okay, now you're looking at a population. And so you wouldn't be able to take one point and say, oh, this is a dehydrated rock. You have to take a selection, say a continuous, let's say 1 every meter for 20 or 30 meters to get an idea of what's really happening, because there's heterogeneity in rocks as well, as we all know. So this is what a background example would look like. So what we're going to now do is start looking at what the actual, when you collect this data, produce a hydration value, what it looks like around kimberlites that we're all familiar with. So the first one that started with was actually on the Kelvin kimberlite. So on the rocks, Kelvin had a lot of drilling. There's a lot of rocks that go through crustal rocks around Kelvin, and this is one of them. So this is one of this are 1,600 spectra collected from 600 meters. So this from Aurora did this, and they've been a big supporter of this. And so what you have here is you have this all these dots, so this hydration values. And so you've got dots all over, but what you want to see where the main trends are, where most of the bulk of the data is plotting. So I just want to point out on the right-hand side, this is a mineral group label. So this mineral group label is a legend. It's telling you what the dominant mineral groups are as you go down this drill hole. So you can see that if there's a change here, it's not being driven by a major change in composition. And this is determined by the TSG software that's been tweaked so that it gives nice results. So, so this drill core is 600 meters. It intersects Kimberlite here, and can start to annotate it. This is what a background signature would look like. So this would be we would call it we're calling it the background. So what it would look like away from the Kimberlite at this marker here, which occurs 65 meters away from the Kimberlite, you start to have a change in how the data are showing up. They're plotting more in this hydrated field. There's still data plotting in this dehydrated or in the background field, but a lot more data are plotting in this hydrated field. And so what this told us, we weren't sure what we would find. We didn't know. We didn't go into this knowing what we were going to find. But what this said was that there's something happening at 65 meters away from this Kimberlite that is happening. That's happening right here, so that there's more hydration as we get closer to the Kimberlite. Looking at more from, if you plot Kelvin's data from that hole as a moving average of the hydration values, you'll see that the hydration values increase with increasing proximity to the Kelvin Kimberlite. So here's the model of the Kimberlite. It actually extends down here now. This is an old version of it. And as you go from the surface, so there's a bit of surface hydration because you're actually on the surface and there's water up there. You go down and it's not so hydrated here, but as you approach the Kimberlite, as you get closer to it in space, you start getting more hydration. And the idea is that the change in hydration values cannot be explained by change in composition across the rocks, and that's actually explained by its proximity to Kimberlite. Here's some more data from Kelvin. There's a lot of work from Kelvin, and a lot of it plots in this hydration. So I'm going to show how these relate to the Kimberlites later. But here you can see that these hydration values are fairly high when you're closer to the Kimberlite. When you plot these drill core, those hydration values next to the 3D models of the Kimberlite, you can see that as you go near certain sections, there is more hydration. The hydration halo around Kelvin is not homogeneous. There's a lot of heterogeneity to it. For example, there's more hydration on the upper, above the Kimberlite compared to below it. And there's also more hydration around the conduits where you would have more Kimberlite flowing through it rather than parts at the ends here. And so there's heterogeneity to it, this hydration halo. One thing that's really, did Faraday as well, and this gives a really nice clean example. That other stuff can be quite messy, but this is a nice clean example of what we're talking about. There's hydration. This is the red, the hot colors are the hydrated areas, and then you get this zone of hydration around that extends above the Kimberlite, but you don't get it as you go up higher. And that's not actually below the Kimberlite in this case. So based on this work, Ralph and I got access to a bunch of other drill cores and started measuring. So Ralph went to Sudbury and measured some drill core from Bachelor Clay. There's some missing drill core he got there, and the boxes weren't there, so that's why there's no data. But as you can see around the Tuzo pipe, there is a distinct evidence of hydration around the Tuzo pipe, and this was just drilled into it, and so obviously that was a result that showed us that there was hydration around Kimberlites. And Piku comes. We measured Piku in the beginning. This is the thing we wanted to make sure that we weren't just measuring everything and getting a result that showed us what we wanted to see. And so Piku is very important because Piku doesn't have a lot of data that goes into the hydration zone. And the reason for that is there has to be a certain size of the Kimberlite that you're looking at. The Kimberlite has to be a certain size to make enough to have a hydration zone around it, this hydration halo. For example, we didn't see anything around Snap Lake. It did not extend around Snap Lake. Kelvin Sheep doesn't have anything extending from it. And also around Piku, you don't see a hydration halo around Piku. And all of those are similar in the sense that they're smaller than 30 meters. So the idea is that the cutoff is that you need to have a kimberlite. If you want to have something that's detectable with this technique, that it has to be over a certain size. So it's not going to pick out your small kimberlites, but it will be able to pick out those larger ones. And so what's interesting is that in this, you can see, although PQ doesn't have that hydration halo, in this class, this crustal class that's actually sitting in the kimberlite, on the edges of that crustal block, you can see that there is this hydration event. The edges of that crustal block have been hydrated where they have been in contact with the kimberlite. So PQ has the capacity to hydrate the crustal rocks that are next to it. It just has to be entrained in that kimberlite, and it can't just be sitting next to it. And then what's very interesting is PK311, you actually do have data that's popping up in this hydration zone that indicate that kimberlite is near. And they did find, they say, kimberlite at the top of this, but there was no extra drilling because of its location. Diavik. Ralph went to Diavik and measured the, that's wrong. Ralph went to Diavik and measured the A154 south and kimberlite and crustal rocks around A154 north. And what's interesting is that yes, you get this is a different scale. So before we were measuring one spectrum every meter, and then we thought, okay, well let's see what's really happening on the fine scale. And what happens if you measure one spectrum every 10 centimeters and see what that heterogeneity looks like. And what happens is that you can see close to the kimberlite that there's something else happening that is not necessarily a hydration halo, but we're calling this dehydrated cook zone. So what happens is when you get close to the kimberlite, you actually have these dehydrated rocks that would presumably form by the heat of the kimberlite dehydrating the nearby crustal rocks. And you can see several examples of this happening. So you have this line, you can draw this line. So in about 5 meters from A154 south, you have this dehydration zone. So you're starting out very dehydrated near the kimberlite where it's in contact with the kimberlite. As you get further away where it gets cooler, and then it's just hydrated. Now what happens here is this drill hole intersects kimberlite once and it almost intersects it a second time. And then before it pops out away from the kimberlite and starts just going into the normal hydration zone. So other kimberlites at Diavik also show this. And here we go, whoa. So at Diavik, in another hole, you see that this zone here is 4 meters, here it's 5 meters. And another one, 3 and 4. And so what we're seeing in the data is that we can see a background signature where you have a background amount of hydration, which is probably quite low. You can see that around kimberlites, at a certain distance from kimberlites, you're getting a hydration zone. And then right next to the kimberlite, close to it, within 5 meters, you're getting a dehydrated cook zone. And that's coming from one kind of measurement. And that's an interesting thing. And this hasn't been seen before. This is the first time we've actually been able to document this happening. And so it got interesting. I mean, it was interesting before, but what happened was Dominion Diamonds wanted to try this out for Fox. They were doing deep drilling with Fox. And so we spoke with them. They said, yeah, let's give it a shot. And this week they decided that I could present the results. Before it was confidential, but I thought it was okay. So the next one I'm going to show you is Fox. And Fox kind of pulls it all together because it's a giant kimberlite and we have lots of measurements from it. So here, this is one Fox picture. Yeah, it looks pretty, there we go. So you can see here, there's Fox. This is this big hole, it was 550 meters down in here. And all of these data are plotting nicely in the hydration zone. So this is good. This is a consistent result. This wasn't what I was wanting to see. I wanted to see it dehydrate. I wanted to see the background. I wanted to see the whole transition. But fortunately, they drilled another hole. And it came from the other side. And what you see here is you see that background signature at the top. You can see the background where you're away from the kimberlite. You enter that hydration zone where you're getting closer to the kimberlite. And down here, I'm going to blow this up, and you can see that dehydration zone as well. And so here we've got this is here the cutoff between the background and the hydration zone is 170 meters to the kimberlite. So for a kimberlite the size of Fox, you should be able to drill 170 meters in any direction and see that hydration zone around it. And then if you're drilling 200 meters away, then you would be in the background. That's the assumption. I'm going to blow up this range right here so you can see this dehydration zone. You can see how nicely it tracks as you get closer to the kimberlite, because this hole is quite angled there obliquely. It's actually, this 70 meters of dehydration is actually, at the top here is 15 meters distance to the kimberlite. So at Diavic, we're seeing that dehydration zones start at around, or kind of end at 5 meters. And this, because box is larger, it's actually cooking into the crustal rock a bit more, and it's actually going 15 meters into the kimberlite. And the reason they wanted to test this, as far as I understand, was that geotechnically it could be problematic or it could be informative to know how these rocks, this cook zone, how far it extends into the rock, and if it has any properties that are good or bad for mining. So that is the results. There are some other ones. We also looked at Victor, the carbonate rocks from Victor, and that they were quite interesting. They showed that you also see this hydration zone, but that it's not as obvious, and it's smaller than the granites and the monocytates in this area. And so I'm just going to summarize the points here. The hydration halos around kimberlites were detected using spectroscopy. Hydration, there's a lot of heterogeneity to it, and each kimberlite has its own heterogeneity as well. But it's independent of the local compositional variations. So by tracking the mineral chemistry that goes through there, we can say, okay, well, there's nothing mineralogically that's changing the hydration values. That hydration has to be some outside effect. However, only kimberlites greater than 15 to 25 meters can produce an easily detected hydration halo. So that gives us a landmark for size, minimum size. For the Fox kimberlite, the halo extended 175 meters into the rock. For Kelvin, it extended 65 meters into the rock. So obviously Kelvin's much smaller than the Fox, and these numbers all kind of fit together. An immediate dehydration zone is observed at the kimberlite contact. So in Diavic, it's less than 5 meters thick, but at Fox, it goes to 15 meters, and obviously we'll be collecting more and more data to see if you can actually tell how large a kimberlite is just by the size of the dehydration zone, perhaps. Criticisms. First of all, the big criticism is we don't actually have a drill core away from a kimberlite. We don't have a pure background drill hole. That's because it's not for lack of trying. We have tried extensively to get these, because obviously this is an important part of this project. So the reason that we don't have access to them is because most people don't look after them. You drill a bad hole, you throw the drill core out, it gets stored out in the weather. It's not kept track of, you don't keep them. So we have not been able to get any fresh, good quality, bad holes to test out this hypothesis fully. So if anybody has any and they want to share them with us, great. Also, a hydration halo can be caused by any type of hydration event. So to say that a hydration halo is caused by kimberlites is naive, but we can, in certain areas, it's possible that a hydration halo is caused by kimberlite. And so this kind of tool can be used to help refine a drilling program with a bunch of other information, but really it's something that it's more of an observation that can help define things, but to say that, all hydration is caused by kimberlites. So future work is obviously keep collecting data, using tools that are available, eventually, soon getting the handheld smartphone things, and then everybody can start collecting data and getting really good constraints on if this is useful what we're observing, or if it's kind of just a nice little study, but not super practical. Question 1, can this technique be used to obtain rock stability information? So this is something that we're looking into a bit more also right now. Does it work on RC chips? And the answer is yes, probably. We haven't done this on RC chips, but we've done a lot of RC chip work, and I don't see a problem using this on RC chips. And then can it be used in the field during the drilling program? And I mean, that's a question maybe other people can answer, but it's something that we hope that can be integrated into the workflow very, very easily and without disruption, and you don't have to hire new people. It should be something that only So there are a lot of of people who contribute to this. Obviously, it got started by Dave White at Aurora. He was the first one who came to me with this question. And then Barrett and the Northwest Territory Geological Survey really thought it would be a nice thing to try, just to look at it, to see what happens. Then Kennedy threw some rocks in, North Arrow did, and then De Beers, and then Diavik and Mayo Tinto, and Dominion Diamonds as well. And so these are all the people that helped organize us, getting us to mines, getting us to core shacks, which is not an easy thing when everybody's super busy. So those people really helped a lot. And our company, yeah, so that's what we do. So that was the talk, and I'm looking forward to your questions. I kind of zipped through that pretty quickly. Yes. Yes.
Is there a satellite? Is the hyperspectrum data available from any satellite data? Is it open source or non-open source?
We don't do satellite data. That's not what we don't do airborne. The type of data we analyze is proximal, so that you don't have to do the atmospheric correction. There are a lot of companies that do satellite data analysis, but that's not our strength. Our strength is proximal, laboratory-based handheld tools.
And the data and the hydration that is measured. I'm sorry, some of my questions I don't know much about geology. Is it water from
Kimberlite.
other places seeping through? Or
Yeah, there can be, sure. But we may have to consider. I mean, there is an effect of the regional geology on the results, but the trick is to find that background data so that we can correct for that to look for anomalous data outside of it.
Thanks.
Thanks, Michelle. How would you expect these hydration signatures to vary from other magmatic deposits like copper porphyry or something like that? Would there be a major change? Like if you just had your hydration data and you didn't know a kimberlite was there, would you be able to tell right away from looking at the data that we have a kimberlite that's proximal?
I think that this hydration, I don't know the answer to that question because I haven't looked at the hydration, this cryptic alteration around hydrothermal deposits. However, I suspect that there must be similar. I mean, it's just water going through rock, so I don't see why kimberlites would be any different. However, I wouldn't be surprised if we were to study, let's say, 10 hydrothermal ore deposits and then 10 kimberlites. That I bet you there would be differences in their shape, and I bet you there would be differences between them, but I can't say what they would be right now. My instinct is that they would be different, but you'd have to do a very, very thorough study of several of the characteristics.
So is it just mainly a function of how hot the magma is, or the inherent volatile content or water content of the magma? What drives the
Yes.
I guess the
Yeah.
width of the halo or something like that?
That.
Just the temperature.
But it has to be, what we're seeing is the low temperature effect, right? So this happens at 110 degrees. And I mean, this is perhaps what, yeah.
Okay.
You said that the effect was seen on the top side of some of the
Yeah.
Kelvin
Yeah.
Kennedy pipes,
Yeah.
or kimberlites, I should say, but not on the bottom. Why do you think that?
I think in some places that you see it on the bottom, in some places you don't. And I think it's just, I think there are probably preferred cracks that when the kimberlite is degassing or cooling down, it's going to take the path of least resistance. So if you have an area that doesn't have any fractures in it, doesn't have, the grain boundaries are tight, you're not going to hydrate that area as easily as in another location. So it's just taking the easiest path. But there is, I mean, Kelvin does have a strange geometry and it has a strange energy. Which is,
Are there rock types that you have noticed would be better or worse to use this technique in?
no, they're the same. That's the thing, is because it's not changing the mineral chemistry, you don't need a specific mineral to alter. It's just attaching water onto the minerals that are there. And if we can detect that, then we're good. So we've done it on carbonates, on limestone and dolomites, and it works there. And then the metasediments and the granites as well, it works as well.
So you think if you had a kimberlite pipe intruding into two different post-rock environments, those halos would look exactly the same?
They wouldn't look exactly the same, but there would still be a halo.
What's the sort of minimum sample spacing you require for
1 meter
confidence
is
in
good.
it?
1 meter is good.
Would you settle for 3 meters?
Yeah, hey, let's ask another question. Yeah, 3 meters. I mean, the Piku stuff was at 3 meters, and that's if you have enough rock, sure. Yeah, I mean, it's not ideal, obviously, but next time just measure the rock before you
Do you plan to extend your understanding of hydration by looking at specific types of kimberlites and their correlation between the size of the halo? Because I suspect that what we see as correlation between the size of the body and the size of the halo could be just a correlation between pyroclastic versus hypothysal, because hypothysal normally is thinner and less, and usually less fluid than.
I mean, I
so
think,
you
yeah, I
plan
think
to do that.
we will go forward with this as much as we can. I mean, we can only work with the data we have, but obviously, yes, as we acquire more data from different kimberlites, there's a couple of things we'd like to do with this. I think that the size of the kimberlite and the type of the kimberlite must affect the measure, and if it's exposed to the surface. I mean, that's like problem with Kelvin is did it surface or did it not? I don't agree, but maybe this kind of information maybe that's one of the volatiles, but
Well, I'd say this is like it's like usually you have your larger kimberlite bodies consist of pyroclastic kimberlite. So in that sense, you'll see that correlation, or you can see it already here in these data. And little dikes are usually like hypothysal or something. And I'm not sure if you can be so precise to really pinpoint it, like that you can essentially determine like the kind of kimberlite that you might look for, or that you see your halo from in a drill core. But yeah, I think it's already based on the data that we have. It's pretty clear that pyroclastic kimberlite bodies, which are bigger, will produce bigger halos, and maybe even the exsolution of volatiles was more sort of efficient in these pyroclastic rocks, so that they were actually able to penetrate more of the country rock.
What you actually need to test that idea is to have a large hypothysal kimberlite, something like a root zone of South African kimberlite, where you can have 100 meters of melt certified without fermenting.
and then we just have to drill a nice long hole through the crust and find something to pay for it.
Yeah,
That's
this is sort of the
Stefan
problem.
Kurtzlaux is like, can't you just drill there? I'm like, you can't just drill. You know, we're going to spend millions of dollars to drill a hole and you don't know it.
Yeah, there's a controversy about how kimberlite's placed by CO2 or by
Yeah.
water, and this seems to lean towards the water side, I guess.
Yeah, we can't see CO2 in the, I mean, that's out of my league as far as discussion. We will comment on that, but.
Well, I mean, there's tons of hydrous minerals in the kimberlite, so why wouldn't there be water in it? I mean, CO2.
I'm on the water side.
Yeah.
Well, we can't see CO2.
The problems with CO2 or would be like you wouldn't see CO2 in these rocks like sticking to.
Well, you see a lot
these
of
rocks.
carbonate in the,
That's true, yeah. But like if you have like late stage kind of like gases or something, CO2 degassing, CO2 doesn't really stick to material like water. Water really sticks to rocks.
but you mentioned 110
Yeah.
degrees. Where do you get that from?
That's from the bonds that we're measuring. You can tell how strong they are based on their position.
Well, that's interesting because that's the temperature of serpentinization. And it's an exothermic thing, and post-eruption, lots of things to serpentinize. And it could be that. That is the temperature of serpentinization.
Maybe this follows that. I was hoping you could comment a little more detail on the exact nature of the water that's
Yeah.
there. Like
Yeah.
you say it's absorbed
Absorbed, yeah.
water.
Yeah.
Like, where is it at the grain scale, and how does it get there?
We think it's on the grain boundaries, sitting there. It's not actually, based on the spectra that we're seeing, it's not inside the mineral. It's a very loosely ordered hydroxyl, let's say, an OH, an H2O, that is sitting on the surface of the mineral, that is attached to the mineral. It's not liquid water in the middle of nowhere. It's actually a hydroxyl group with the hydroxyl part is hydrogen bound, and there's hydrogen binding to the mineral itself, but it's not making it, it's not altering the mineral to make a clay. Normally with alteration, that water and other things will then change, let's say, a feldspar into a fengnite. And so it's not at that stage yet. It's actually just getting to the point where it's interacting with the mineral, but it's not part of the temperature. I'm not sure about
Yeah, no. I mean, it seems like, well, this is the one thing, one example. A different example that was not shown now was at the Victor Kimberlite, and there's like carbonate host rocks, so very different than these silicic rocks in territories with these Kimberlites. And there, the halo doesn't seem to extend as far. We can kind of sort of nicely see how it terminates after a couple of meters there. And this is one of the reasons we thought like the reason might also be like the size might also be linked to the grain size of the material. So if you have these carbonates with lots more grain size, very fine grain stuff, it sort of takes up a lot more of the water in a relatively short distance relative to these like larger grain like silicic rocks. So in these silicic rocks, your halo can extend further, and in carbonates it's closer. And this, let's say like the grain, the number of grain boundaries and the grain size essentially then determines that. So there's this effect. But I mean most of the kimberlites, at least that we look around here, we looked at were pretty similar like silicic rocks, so they're more easily comparable.
Yeah, just quick comment about your idea that the water is actually on the grain boundaries. You can correlate it with traditional XRF analysis. When you ask for LOY, loss of ignition, then you can differentiate between moisture and high temperature water. So your water should be in moisture, low temperature water, and you can see, you can check that there's a correlation between XRF and your hydration.
Yeah, you should be able to like heat up the samples and measure the loss and so it could be done in addition, like to test what really is that. I mean, this was sort of our ideas, like how the water sits in there. So of course, you could potentially prove different methods.
Sample preparation, what does it include?
clean, dry drill core.
Yeah, but let's say if the sample is not well dried, does it affect?
Yeah, it has to be dry. Yeah. If there's any water on the surface, we'll be measuring that water.
Is there a risk of over drying? Let's say you cook the samples at more than 100 degrees temperature.
Yeah, we wouldn't want to. Yeah, no, I wouldn't want to dry the samples in an oven before measuring them. I would. Yeah, as close to being drilled as possible, but still being dry. That's the preference.
So you would leave them at a room temperature?
Room temperature for sure, yeah. They have to be, I think room temperature, like was it the Fox stuff that was frozen and then you guys had to warm it up?
Yeah, we had to leave it inside for a while because
Yeah.
it was creating condensation.
Yeah, it's condensation. So there's challenges in the northern environments of this kind of work because you do have to have dry drop there. So you do have to kind of let it dry on the surface. And that could be, you could have a air dryer drying it. This is also possible. It just has to be the surface. You don't have to dry everything. You just need that surface you're measuring to be dry. So you touch it.
Just kind of picking up on what Maya was saying about the difference between coherent and physical Kimberlite and chemiclassic Kimberlite. I'm pretty sure that most of the base of Kelvin is coherent.
Yeah.
Maybe that's responsible for why there isn't as much of a halo. And something in terms of your sort of uneven halo, maybe looking at the internal geology, because I know Kelvin's are
Yeah,
coherent phases and then volcanic classic phases.
Yeah. No, I mean, there's heterogeneity.
Does drilling itself use any fluids or?
Yeah, but then you just dry it.
So that just by drying it goes away.
Yeah. So that's, oh yeah, that's right, sorry, well, this is published in an NTGS open report, open file or open report, so it just came out a couple weeks ago. We're going to update the figures. They weren't high enough quality, so we're going to update the figures, get the high quality figures in there. But check out there's more stuff there to read, more discussion and more holes. You can kind of, if you have any problems, just contact us. Listen to you.
All right, thank you, Michelle. So I think there's a few new faces here. So what we usually do is we carry on all these unfinished discussions at the Lennox Pub, which is on the corner of Granville and Robson Street. So if you'd like to have a beer with people and just carry on discussions, then yeah, we can head there now and you can slowly make your way.